Hello and welcome everybody to this XTB live news. My name is Walid Koudmani, market analyst for XTB. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the main events happening in the markets this morning in the first part of the European session, what we can expect from the US session, what to keep an eye on in the economic calendar, and some major moves and key levels to keep an eye on the charts. So let's start with a recap of what's happened over the weekend and in this first part of the session. Over the weekend, we had the Asian session being trading mixed, which translated into European session, which also started mixed. DAX bouncing off of its weekly highs, as I'll show you in the charts in a minute. We also had the slump of cryptocurrencies with Bitcoin reaching the lowest level in quite some time, around $42,000. After Elon Musk suggested via Twitter that Tesla may sell or may have already sold its Bitcoin holdings. That I think has been not confirmed. So at that point, we've had a slight recovery in that. Also, we had the news that Kia and Hyundai will halt some car production for 2 days due to chips shortage. The chip shortage has been something that has been going on for the whole pandemic. And in fact, a lot of industries and sectors have been affected by this. And it's quite interesting to see that it goes from both electronics, as you would imagine, for like computers and graphics cards, so those stocks, to car manufacturers and battery manufacturers as well. Precious metals, oil, and industrial metals are trading mixed. Again, I'll show you on the charts. As far as the economic calendar today, we have some CPI inflation data, and then we have the U.S. From the U.S. the New York Empire Index for May, and the from Canada housing starts for April. But really, the main event would be the central banker speeches from both the Fed and the Bank of England. So those are going to be really important to keep an eye on because any sort of change in the monetary policy or approach can be taken as or can give a market reaction, as we've seen in the past, even just from comments, not even from the Fed themselves, but from the Treasury Secretary Yellen, when she just mentioned that interest rates might have to be adjusted. The markets obviously reacted to that until the Fed came back and said, or she actually retracted her statements. We also have a few earnings as it nears its ending. So we have Tencent, Ideanomics, Esports Entertainment, and Clover Health Investments. 3 out of those are aftermarket close. So let's move on to the charts and start with the DAX as always. DAX, which, as you can see, positive session overall. If you want to go on the hourly, we had this bounce from the support, which we talked about on Friday. And then after reaching this level here, the high around the previous highs as well, it bounced back and is actually currently testing this other support. So still in a very narrow range, the DAX. A few levels that are important. Also, these moving averages, the exponential moving averages, are both intersecting at this level almost. If we want to take a look at the UK index, similar situation to the DAX, but slightly more negative, but we can draw similar lines, as you can see. We have the bounce from around 7,000 points, which we talked about again on Friday, and then down to 6,967 in a tight range on the indices. If we want to take a look at the US indices, similar situation for the moment, although here we do have the averages crossing. So the 8 and 21, we have a cross, and we have the index actually testing the one of the averages. Still below its high, but as you can see, quite the recovery from the low of 4,029, over 3%. The US tech stocks, which have been really hit the most, or some of them are the most hit, we can see that similar pattern, but obviously slightly lower than the S&P in comparison to their all-time high. So the Nasdaq is about 4.755% from its all-time high, while the S&P is about 2% from its all-time high. So you can see, and then this has been a theme, and we've touched on this in other videos, where the S&P will perform slightly better, even though if you look on the shorter time frames, the moves look very similar. So it's just because the Nasdaq and the tech stocks have been more susceptible to these news of any sort of policy changes. Let's take a look at commodities. So I mentioned gold mixed, but positive start, reaching the highest level since February. So the 9th of February was the last time this actual high was reached, and we had a pullback, but not to the previous resistance, which we talked about again in the past, as this level has acted as resistance. The price managed to extend the upward move, but then ran into the previous resistance, which I'll show you on the daily. It's a little bit more obvious. You can see here, this is the resistance, or this is the level, if you want to call that. It acted as a resistance, and then we had the pullback, but still remaining above this range, which held for about a week. Oil, so WTI, let's go on the hourly. Slightly positive or mixed session, you would say, with a few moving averages right around this area, all 350 and 200. So very important level for WTI. Plus, it's an important level because it's $65. You can see a lot of consolidation in this area, moving up and down in this range between $63 and $66.60. So it remains to be seen how this will then behave going forward. But any sort of news is worth keeping an eye on. We had obviously the news of the pipeline. We have obviously the conflict in the Middle East that could be have an impact potentially on any sort of oil news. So these are some of the things to keep an eye on along with the inventories as always. Let's take a look at some currency. So I mentioned Bitcoin. Let's take a quick look at Bitcoin. 40 back up from the low around 44,500 for 45,000. Let's take a look at some other currencies. So on the market analysis section of the website, we can see the currencies, and the USD is trading mostly positive against these currencies. Euro is also mostly positive. Pound positive day. The yen also very positive, while these currencies here are trading mostly negative. If we want to take a look on the pairs, we can see pound dollar still remains above 141, so very tight range also above the Ichimoku cloud. You can see after breaking through it, tested it a few times, still testing the upper limit and testing this other upper limit, which is the support from here. So stuck in the narrow range, and it's very it's going to be interesting to see which way this is going to go, because it could either obviously go sideways or break above it or below it on this end. But these are the two levels that have been holding it so far. While Euro USD also positive, but slightly pulling back from the high of 126.9, 127, which you can see coincides with these other highs, 3 times tested, but pulling back to this area, not so much the lower lows. So again, also stuck in a range, but you can see that this is the US dollar index, and the US dollar index is slightly recovering, so we're seeing a slight pullback of the Euro USD pair as well. And so that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Walid Koudmani, market analyst for XTB. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe and like. Thank you very much. Good luck with your trading.